Today's sermon is titled Blessed Be, an agnostic wrestles with blessings to be delivered by Jamie Woolf. Jamie Woolf is a retired journalist who spent 32 years writing for the Salt Lake Tribune in Salt Lake City, Utah. Most of that time, she covered environmental issues. She received the Knight International Press Fellowship in 1998 and spent 6 months teaching journalism in Ecuador. She was also a visiting lecturer at Princeton University in 2009. Since moving to San Luis Obispo some 13 years ago, she has been the president of the UUSLO Board of Trustees, chair of the SLO City Bicycle Advisory Committee, a state park docent at the Pismo Beach Monarch Grove, and a volunteer teacher of English as a second language. She is currently the chair of the Trans Central Coast, a group that supports transgender and other gender diverse people in San Luis Obispo County. She has a son who lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Jamie, it's a pleasure to introduce you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you today. I'll start with a short story. It was before the pandemic. My wife and I were in the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, and it was after an 11-hour flight. We were hungry, we were tired, and we were a little bit grumpy. So we had to wait for a while for our flight to slow. So there was a cafe near the gate, and we went in and had breakfast. The waitress was very, very nice. And as we were leaving, she said, "Thanks, and have a blessed day." So I was immediately filled with two conflicting feelings. I'll start with the reasoning, thoughtful, and charitable feeling that I'd like to have as a UU. That is, she was telling me in a very nice Christian Texas sort of way, have a nice day. But my gut reaction was much different. I immediately wanted to shout, "Mind your own business." That "have a blessed day" comment felt like a not too subtle attempt to proselytize, and I didn't like it. She also suddenly embodied all of my prejudices about Texas and that state's friendly, right-wing evangelical Christians who pass hateful laws, making life dangerous for transgender people like me. So I stood there a moment while these thoughts swirled in my head, and finally I just turned around and walked out. I guess it's fair to say that I have an opinion about the word blessed. It triggers a lot of issues from growing up in a Mormon home in Salt Lake City. In that culture, all blessings come directly from God, although some senior Mormon men, never women, are authorized to act as middlemen for God and bestow blessings on those deemed worthy. The Mormons take quite literally the words from the book of James in our first reading. Whatever is good and perfect is a gift coming down to us from God our Father, who created the lights in heaven. When I left the Mormon church as a teenager, one of the many things I rejected was the idea of blessings. My discomfort with the word wasn't just from church. During the Vietnam War, the song "God Bless America" was the unofficial anthem of the right-wing evangelicals. They seemed to believe that everything this country did in the name of stopping communism was blessed by God and completely justified, and that we anti-war protesters were just godless heathens who were tearing down this nation. I still cringe when I hear that song. God Bless America was written by Irving Berlin in 1918, but he didn't use it till 1938 when it was sung by Kate Smith during an Armistice Day radio broadcast. It became an instant hit, but had some powerful critics who felt about it like I did. And one of them was Woody Guthrie, who decided he'd write a song to sort of respond to it, a new song. And in his notebook, he wrote out the first words, and he called it God Blessed America. So note he used the past tense, not bless, he used blessed, suggesting that maybe God was no longer blessing America. Later, he scratched out that title and renamed it This Land. The song is a beautiful song. It recalls the beauty of America, and in most of the verses, and with a refrain, God blessed America for me. But the tone turns dark in the last verse, which recalls scenes from the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression, when hungry people lined up at the relief office looking for help. He wrote, I stood there wondering if God blessed America for me. When Guthrie published that song in 1944, he changed the title and dropped the political verses. Today, we know the song as the classic, This Land is Your Land. But even without the overtly political verses, it was a call for inclusion and equality, the opposite of what he and others felt was happening with the weaponized version of God Bless America. So despite my history of animosity with the idea of blessings, my feelings about this word have become complicated in the last few years. I've been feeling really fortunate and searching for the perfect word to describe it. And I hate to admit it, but I've told a few people recently that I'm actually feeling blessed. So this conflict has left me thinking deeply about blessings. So today I'm going to explore it and explain how I'm trying to come to peace with the word. I know I'm not alone in my comfort with the word, particularly here in a group of UUs. I told Rod Richards, the minister of my UU church in San Luis Obispo, that I was thinking of offering a sermon on blessings and the UU reaction to it. He smiled and told me a story. A new director of religious exploration had been hired at UU SLO. She was from a different faith tradition, and she didn't really understand some of the quirks of our UU way. She'd organized an ice cream social with kids and asked Rod if he'd like to offer a blessing. Rod said he must have looked confused and taken a little too long to answer, because she quickly said, "Oh, I guess you don't do that here." That's where he ended the story. But I wanted to know more, so I asked Rod, "Okay, so did you finally bless the ice cream?" No, he said. "I did say a few words, and I'm pretty sure it didn't affect the ice cream." So my growing sense of being blessed arose after I completed my transition from male to female. I debated it for decades, and in September of 2018, I finally decided to become the woman I knew I had always been. It was a hard and a frightening decision, but the impacts on my life have been profound. It felt like I was able to set down a heavy weight that I'd carried for years. I'm not saying life is perfect or easy, but it suddenly became a lot less difficult when I wasn't carrying around the burden of confusion and shame about my gender identity. These have been some of the best years of my life, and I honestly never knew I could feel this good. Since my transition, that tricky word, blessing, just keeps popping up. I frequently feel blessed to live in a time and a place where I can be my authentic self. And I might even be blessed to have such a loving and supportive wife, family, friends, and church. So I decided to start my exploration of blessings by looking it up on Wikipedia, of course. It says, in religion, a blessing is the infusion of something with holiness, spiritual redemption, or divine will. I'm okay with something being holy, and the concept of spiritual redemption is fine too. It's that divine will part that gets to me. I'm a lot like the guy in the second reading who also bristled at the bless you comment and said, I'm an atheist and I don't believe in anything like that. Well, I'm an agnostic, at least most days, and I get what he was saying. You use often dance around the God issue and blessings through clever use of language. We need to do it. Some of you have a strong belief in God. Some of us don't. We've got to be careful and inclusive in the way we say things. One blessing on the Unitarian Universalist Association website asks the eternal wellspring of peace to help us. Another calls on the loving Spirit to bless us. Those words sound a lot like calling on a deity to bestow blessings, but it's vague enough that I can mostly ignore it. Even the hymn we sing today, Spirit of Life, dances around the God and blessing question. I love the music and the lyrics are beautiful, but the words sound a lot like asking a higher power to come and help us. My Mormon family blessed the food before eating. Well, the truth is, I only remember us praying on Sundays when the whole family, including grandparents, stray aunt and uncle or cousin, would stop by for a large dinner after church. To me, the prayer felt more like a public display of piousness for the relatives than an honest desire to sanctify the food or gathering. But maybe I was just being an obnoxious teenager in those days. We said the same prayer still used in almost every Mormon household. Our Father who is in heaven, bless this food that it might nourish and strengthen our bodies. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. To my way of thinking, we are asking God to infuse our food with some special power so that it would be healthier for us. The heathens down the street could eat normal food. Think for a minute about Rod's story about blessing the ice cream social. Why didn't it feel right? Was it our assumption that Rod would be asking some higher power for special treatment of our event and our ice cream? Did it seem too trivial? Why do we offer blessings in some events and not others? And is it possible we were confused about what the RE director was asking when she suggested the blessing? So I tracked her down and asked her what she intended. She said, I was not expecting them to change the ice cream into another substance. It was just a gesture on my part to pause for a moment of gratitude for our delicious taste treat and honor the gathering of our youngsters. Thinking back to my parents' Sunday prayer, I suspect they would have said much the same. It was slowing down for a moment and giving thanks that all of us were together. The actual words of the prayer probably meant very little to them. So if I don't believe in God or have doubts about God, then where else can blessings come from? The woman in the second reading said, "My angel, this blessing is coming from my heart to yours with love." A blessing has no religious connotations, and it transcends all religious boundaries, all creeds, all races. A blessing is a gift that I give to you today. Maybe that's the way some of you already think about blessings. But for me, this is new territory. That blessings are a special kind of gift we can exchange with each other. And feeling blessed is a special kind of gratitude. The Reverends John Gibb Millspaugh and Sarah Gibb Millspaugh say in an essay that in our UU religious tradition, it is not just ministers and religious professionals who have the power to bless. Each of us has the power to bless another and to bless the world. But what exactly is a blessing as opposed to good luck or being fortunate? I'd like to examine three different examples. Imagine your car breaks down on a lonely dirt road in the middle of a vast desert, and you're out of food and water and about to die. Out of nowhere, a Jeep headed for a picnic comes rumbling down the road. The driver's backseat is loaded with food and beverages. Is it a blessing the Jeep happened by? Or were you just fortunate? The birth of a healthy new baby is said to be a blessing. Why is it a blessing instead of good luck? Being dealt a royal flush while playing poker is regarded as really good luck. Is it a blessing too? Before trying to answer these, think about the Wikipedia definition of a religious blessing: the infusion of something with holiness, spiritual redemption, or divine will. And also the sectarian definition from our second reading: a blessing is a gift from my heart to yours with love. That example of being stranded out in the middle of the desert near death and then being rescued by someone driving by, it's clearly good luck. But for the stranded driver, the arrival of help was profoundly important. They'd been facing a slow and awful death, and suddenly they have another chance to live. That might qualify for spiritual redemption. And the rescuer's decision to share his food and water was undoubtedly seen as a loving gift. Maybe that was a blessing. For me, it can be a deeply spiritual experience to hold a newborn baby. It's a holy thing to see a new life come into this world. We don't know where it came from, why it's here, or where it's going. But suddenly, out of nowhere, this beautiful child is in our lives. I consider that holy and a blessing. The royal flush in poker, it'd be great I'd tell the story for the rest of my life, but would it have a profound impact on my life? Would it lead to spiritual redemption? Would it be considered a holy experience? Was it a gift from someone else's heart to me? I don't consider this a blessing. And my own experience of changing gender, and finally living my authentic life. It feels like much more than good luck or fortune. It has been profound and life-changing. Does this transformation of my life qualify as a spiritual redemption? Maybe, I don't know. But I think the real blessing has been the gift of acceptance from those around me, many of whom who were initially confused and worried about my decision. Their acceptance of me was truly a gift from their heart to mine. Although we UUs are sometimes a little skittish about blessings, we still embrace the concept. The UUA website lists blessings for such things as new children, risk takers, and failures, for the divorced and separated, for mothers, for the dedication of a meeting house, a new playground, even bikes, a blessing for the sky, a new driver, for final exams, for queer people, and the Women's March. I didn't see a UU blessing for ice cream socials, but I wouldn't be surprised if one exists somewhere. We even have prayers for meals. The UUA produced a brochure entitled Family Prayers that includes one I really like. It was written by Richard Fuchs. For the sun and the dew, which we did not create. For the moon and the evening, which we did not make. For food, which we will plant, but cannot grow. We lift up our hearts in thanks this day. With this prayer, I'll be ready the next time my wife's evangelical Christian cousins ask whether anyone at the table would like to offer the blessing before eating. Let me finish by going back to the beginning and that waitress at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. Would I feel different today if I visited the cafe and she told me, thanks and have a blessed day? I hope so. It'd still make me a little uneasy by making progress. I'm sure I'd still think she was proselytizing, and I'd be a little bothered by it. But I'm hopeful that I'd have an easier time recasting it as something coming from her heart to mine, a gift to make my day a little easier. So, thank you, and have a nice day.